Alright gang, today we're going to be talking about some compositional tips and tricks. The first one we're going to be talking about is geometric and organic. This is going to be part of your project, so make sure you're paying attention. Please, oh please, I'll try to make this as fast and entertaining as possible. So, first of all, talking about geometric. Now, geometric for the most part are just are shapes that we can make and calculate. So really simple things like the circle. I'm going to be drawing with my favorite pen, my brush pen. Well, it's my new favorite thing ever. We can name our square. Nice 4 sides. We can also talk about triangles. If you remember the compositional thing, we talked about people like triangles a lot. And then there are sorts of variations we can do with those shapes. So for example, we can stretch them. So the circle can turn into a really shaky and weird oval. Actually, that turned out pretty great. We can stretch out the square into a rectangle. And then if we combine certain things, if we add sides, we can get things like the pentagon. Our nice little 5 sides there. If you take the square and sort of move it to the side, we can get our little rhombus. Whoops, that angle is all off, forgive me. If we do that and turn the square to its side, we can get a diamond and all sorts of things. We can, even stretch it further and get like these really nice sleek diamonds. If you've ever played with those tessellation games, that one is the little blue diamond bit. So lots of different things we can do. Now, for the most part, these are very basic geometric shapes. So there's some rules that go along with being geometric. Usually they're pretty simple. You can count the sides. Of course, we can move on to our dodecahedrons that have 12 and 20 sides, but for the most part, they're pretty simple. They're pretty symmetrical or mathematical. You guys know in geometry you study a lot of these shapes. And for the last part, they're usually measured, meaning that they're man-made. Now, of course, there's always exceptions. For example, if we add one more side to the pentagon, we get a hexagon. Now most people look at these and automatically think of, bees, because beehives have that hexagon shape. For the most part, a lot of these geometric shapes don't happen naturally in the environment or in organic situations. Hexagon is just one of those that kind of is abnormally out there. But for the most part, it's usually man-made things. Think about a house. Anytime we draw a house, we start off with our square or a rectangle and add a triangle to the top. Doors, windows, kind of just look around the room you're in. For example, my bookcase is right next to me, and it's all geometric designs. We could even add to it, to the top, to the sides, very geometric. But organic, that's a different story. So let's go ahead and move to our organic page. Organic shapes and organic compositions are things that happen more naturally. So think about like a tree, for instance. It's not perfectly symmetrical. It's not calculated. Of course, things happen, but usually they're pretty chaotic shapes. So just as kind of a practice on these shapes. For example, a lot of calligraphic lines are very organic. It's something that just kind of happens naturally with a lot of artists. Those kinds of lines, if you go up and down and around. Toy Story, all of the clothes have that kind of cowboy organic line. I was messing with this one, and my sister really liked it, so I kind of like it too. I might add it to something. Just kind of fun things. But really, it's a plethora of things. It can be totally chaotic shapes like this. Nature is pretty chaotic in itself, so I saw this painting once that kind of used these like very organic shapes to create a landscape like this. And it was just one of the most beautiful paintings I ever saw. I didn't take the name, didn't get the artist's name or anything. but it's just really pretty idea of these roaming hills. I think I saw it in Wyoming. But yeah. So organic are just like these very beautiful, very, twisty, windy, chaotic shapes. For example, grass. If you've ever looked closely at grass. Oh good, my ink pen is dying. Perfect timing. Actually. Alright, just put a new ink cartridge in. Let's see if it'll help us out later on. But grass blades are individually pretty identical. It almost looks calculated, but the way the wind moves and kind of breathes through them makes them very chaotic shapes. Very fun. If you think of like graphic, illustrative style plants, leaves have their own kind of wonky shape going to them. Organic shapes are very fun. I think they're probably my favorite things ever. Flowers, of course, the petals, they have a pattern to them, but it's, again, sort of a chaotic pattern. Nothing is precise. Even like, think about like SpongeBob flowers, in each episode they kind of have that flowy nature to them. Oh, it kind of looks like an upside down person. Whoops. Think about like the elements themselves, like water. Very flowy. Free moving. Those kinds of things. If we wanted to draw another flower, you can always combine certain elements. So if I wanted to, I could have circles at the bottom here, and I could turn the petals into sort of a rectangular shape. The fun thing about art is, you're creating your own reality of sorts, kind of letting people into your own ideas and visions. So if you wanted to create a reality where daisies had this really rectangular shape, you can kind of create a fun contrast there. I drew this earlier. Might as well add it because, it's fun. I love these graphic designs. One of my roommates in college, she was a graphic design major, so we would draw a lot together and watch lots and lots of movies. So things like that where it's stylized and fun, but really anything organic. So for example, human eyes, those are always really fun to draw. I have a lot of students that like to draw eyes in class. If you ever want to get a brush pen, the brush pen I'm using right now was on Amazon Prime for like $10. So you can have these really cool designs. I'm getting quiet because I'm trying to focus. I am not like the mighty Bob Ross who can talk and draw at the same time. Well, it's kind of a menacing looking eye. I'm kind of into it. And then of course, eyelashes. Again, eyelashes are very chaotic all over the place. I don't know why I'm talking so low and quiet. Maybe I am channeling Bob Ross. Alright. I'll probably stop it there. I could keep messing with it. I could probably add an eyebrow above it. We're not going to do it. You don't have to steer me. Earlier too, I was looking outside and trees, there are straight lines in nature, but they're not perfectly straight. I think trees are a good example. Lightning bolts, they kind of have that straight edge and then sudden movement. And just some things about organic shapes. A lot of times they're very soft. And they're usually drawn pretty free-handed. There's not a whole lot of measuring or calculating when it comes to these sort of shapes, especially when we get to arrhythmic type patterns. Just very free-handed, free-flowing type shapes. Oh, before I forget, one of the things I forgot to mention, kind of like how geometric designs, hexagons can be considered organic. One of the other things that can be considered organic is the actual circle, just because it is it has curvature to it. Obviously, I've drawn a couple of circles, what with the inside of the flower and the eye. It just kind of depends on context, because hexagons alone are 100% geometric. But if you were to draw a bee next to it, it could be considered a part of an organic design. So with that being said, yes, circles can be considered both, though it belongs in the geometric category. Just one of those things. All right, unfortunately, my internet is not working. Just having one of those weeks again. So here it is on my phone. This is an example of a piece by Alexander Calder. If you need to know his name, this is his name. He is an American sculptor that was really big into the modernist movement. Made these like kinesthetic sculptures, so sculptures that like move while you're looking at them, and he did a really beautiful job. This is a great example of a geometric composition. So just to kind of move it closer to the camera, you can notice the circle there, a very organic line moving through it, but overall it has a very globe kind of constructed way of looking at it. It's just really beautiful work done by him, Alexander Calder. Now, the next person we're going to talk about is Dame Barbara Hepworth. Now, obviously has been knighted. She's a wonderful sculptor, and she makes some of my favorite pieces in sculpture. So here we have, for example, a very ovular, very egg-shaped looking sculpture. The point of her sculptures was to create a sense of serenity to them. So here's one, for example. Here's another one. I think this one's my favorite. But if you notice, she has, you know, some geometric pieces to them. For example, you know, the sphere itself is a geometric form. But on the inside, the way she's carved it is so smooth and curvular. Curvular? Curvular. I'm inventing that word now. This one, for example, she does subtractive sculpture. So she'll take, you know, for example, a piece of marble or stone and cut into it to make these just very pleasing and smooth shapes. So just overall, very pleasing design. I just want to, like, you know, just have it and like touch it and just like, ooh, run my hands on it, because it just looks so smooth and just so, like, I don't know how to describe it. Makes me sound a little weird, but just like the polish on that, gorgeous. Anyway, super big fan of Dame Barbara Hepworth. But for the most part, very organic design, not very calculated. For example, in the center, you know, these holes are not perfectly symmetrical, right? It's a little bit off center. It has that smoothness to it. Pretty simple overall, but just these really well done pieces. So we can see, for example, I've kind of color coded them, sort of Calder as the, you know, geometric design, and Barbara Hepworth as the organic. But as you see, there's always play of elements inside of them. You know, there's no one who's 100% organic and not one person who's 100% geometric. There's always a little bit of both. So that's what we're going to be talking about for our next project. Now, you're going to be designing 3 different kinds of compositions. The first one is going to be all geometric. So, for example, if you had something like this, and you're thinking about a geometric design, a great way to brainstorm. You see I've already kind of started brainstorming earlier with the pencil. You can start sort of putting down different kinds of shapes. Triangle is always a good one. I like squares. I think squares look really nice. Maybe if it had a circle in front of it. And then maybe some like really long slanted rectangles in the back, right? It's kind of cool. It works. Again, we're just brainstorming, so we don't need to measure anything out. Now, this is pretty good. It's a little basic as a design goes. So one thing that I like to do is, you know, do basic shapes and then take another piece of paper and sort of put it on top of that. You should be able to see a little bit through. Uh-oh, my device is less than 5%, so now I can't see the screen. How exciting. So, if we wanted to take that triangle and kind of edit it so it's not really a triangle anymore, kind of a weird diamond shape. I kind of like that. Maybe have a circle coming out of it or something. Sort of cut out. Now I'm intentionally not lining up the squares because I think that kind of looks awesome. And maybe in the background I'll have a circle that's not quite finished. A donut without a hole. Reference to if you've seen Knives Out. It's a really fun movie. Anyway, something like this. Notice how this is a much more evolved and fun design rather than, you know, triangle, square, circle, rectangles. Geometric doesn't mean just recognizable shapes, but sort of more calculated shapes. This is a more evolved form of those shapes, and hopefully you can see that. Now I'm going to pause and get a charger for my device. Aha! Found it. Okay, so that would be an example of our composition number 1, which is our geometric. So I'm probably going to label it Brainstorm Geometric Design. You know, not too simple, not too complicated. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I guess 6 sort of shapes involved. That's kind of fun. Now, the idea is now you're going to assemble something to that degree. Now, we're doing a lot of assembling projects now just because I'm not aware of anything you have. I'm sure one of you has a small sibling with a set of Play-Doh, but we do not all have small siblings with Play-Doh. So if you're worried about geometric design, just think about the things in your house that are geometric. So for example, I have a lot of DVDs, so I could find some of like similar color and style and use these to create some of these more rectangular shapes if I wanted to make it really big. I have dye because I play D&D, so these are very geometric shapes and they're very pleasing color. If you're too worried about color, please don't be. We're not going to be focusing on color on this one, just the shape of it. So, a book, for example, books are rectangular. My pencil case is rectangular. A lot of different kinds of objects. If you want to be a little bit more creative, you could line up color pencils in a way where it can, you know, outline these shapes and fill it up with something on the inside, or maybe just one outline. That's totally fine. So that would be your design number 1. Let's call it. So what I'm going to ask that you do is, for this week, just come up with a few designs. So that being your design number 1, your geometric design. Design number 2, your organic design. Pretend like there's a design there. And your third design will be something combined. So don't be worrying about assembling too much. This week you're just going to be planning things and kind of deciding, you know, what kind of geometric designs do I want? What kind of organic things do I want? Now, of course, the internet is always there to help. You can Google these sorts of compositions. I'm just going to ask that you don't, you know, straight up copy these. But, you know, for simple inspiration is okay. So, for example, this is something that comes up for organic design. These shapes are very organic, you know, kind of free-flowing designs. I would model these for you, but this video is already 20 minutes long, and I don't think we want to sit and watch me make things. But these last two are very geometric. You know, trapezoids, of course, are geometric designs, and just kind of coming up with these different ideas. So, with that being said, your sketches will be due this week, and I'm excited to see the work that you're going to come up with. So, have a great day. Stay safe. I hope you are all so well. Keep washing your hands and staying inside, and keep going strong. Know that if you need help, I'm here to help you. I hope you know that. I hope anybody's watching this. I have no clue, but I do care for you all and hope you have a wonderful week.